Hi, this is Molly Carter. Today I will be reading a passage from my book, Before. Chapter 1. At times, the before haunts my dreams. It's something that entices me, yet scares me because it's unknown and unfamiliar. When I reach out for it in my mind, my fingertips brush the edges of it, like it's just beyond my reach, even though it was really long before I was born. Gran often tells me stories about the before. The days when choice was something they took for granted because they had freedom to choose whatever they wanted, even the simple choice of deciding what food to eat each day. She was a young girl when the world changed, but they held on for as long as they possibly could. An announcement alert blares, startling me. Jolting up out of my chair, I stand so I can peek over the partition, dividing my learning pod from my friend Issa's. Her eyes meet mine, reflecting my concern. I give her a little wave and try to smile. It doesn't happen very often, but whenever leadership gives an announcement, I feel the need to connect with a live human. I know the directness of their message is meant for increased efficiency, but the cold, impersonal way they are delivered makes them hard to listen to. I sit back down at the desk in my learning pod and remove my earpiece. The audio will be piped through the entire building. I glance at the nameplate on my desk. Wren Capella, student. Is etched onto its glossy surface, the same nameplate that I've had since I was assigned to the school 4 years ago. I straighten it and then look over as the screen on my pod wall changes from an image of my learning instructor to a room in the leadership center. My mind has been so consumed with thoughts of going home today, I'd hardly even been paying attention to the lecture. And now an interruption from leadership. A shiver runs up my back. What could leadership possibly need to fix now? A member of the board walks to the center of the screen. She is tall, in a dark suit, her hair pulled back away from her serious face in a bun so tight it tugs at the skin near her eyes. Her cold eyes seem to pierce through me like she is speaking to me personally. Members of Leadership Society, Leadership Board has further improved the efficient use of time and resources, increasing our ability to best live the great plan. She pauses for effect, and I can't help but roll my eyes. We've exhausted ourselves trying to avoid any waste of time and resources. What more can we possibly do? I pull my long brown ponytail over my shoulder and twirl the ends around my finger, a nervous habit I've had since I was my little brother's age. The board member continues, those members of Leadership Society who are in the elderly phase and no longer in producer phase will now be removed from society and placed in a facility where they can live out their lives with a minimal drain of resources. They will be cared for and made comfortable. This is a positive change in our society, leading to improved efficiency and increased security. For as you know, efficiency is key for productivity, and productivity is key for safety. Wait, Gran is an elderly. Gran! How can they take Gran away from us? She has lived with us since before I was born. When my grandfather died, my mother couldn't bear to have her left alone, so Gran moved in with my parents. My parents have had to pay a fee because leadership believes the elderly distract producers, decreasing the productivity of their work. But that isn't how it is in my family. Gran cares for our home and for my little brother Kale like she cared for me before I was assigned to school. She says this was common in the before. Lots of grandparents helped with their grandchildren. There's a catch in my throat, making it hard to swallow, and suddenly I don't want to be alone. I peek out of my learning pod, looking for the learning monitor, but all of them have their eyes focused on their screens, watching the announcement. I sneak around the partition and move into Issa's pod. She looks up in surprise. When she sees my face, she reaches her arms out for me. You're Gran? She whispers. I nod. I avoid eye contact. It will just make me more emotional again. Issa is my roommate and best friend and has been since we were assigned to live at this school for our variety classes when we were 9. We'd recently been assigned different career paths, and after this year, we won't even be on the same campus anymore. She too will be taken from me. Issa pulls back and peeks out of her learning pod, making sure the learning monitors are still distracted. Then she sits on her chair, scooting all the way over to make room for me. We barely fit, but it doesn't matter. I need to be close to someone I care about. The Leadership Council member is still speaking, clarifying details of the removal. Any members of Leadership Society with an elderly will be alerted in the next few weeks for the scheduled removal, she says. Her eyes pierce through the screen at me here in Issa's pod also. The coldness of her voice sends an icy chill down my spine. I lean my head onto Issa's shoulder and she squeezes my arm. Gran being forced to leave us? It was too hard to think about. As quickly as it has begun, the announcement is over, and Issa's screen blinks back to her lecture. She nudges me and I jump up to go back to my learning pod, but only too late. I stand up and almost bump right into this week's learning monitor, Monitor Ramus, who is standing in the doorway of Issa's pod. Miss Capella, again, really? I know Monitor Ramus. She is young and a lot more patient than most of the other monitors. But still, she stands with her hands on her hips, a look of disapproval that makes her dark eyebrows almost reach her hairline. We've been over this before. You know the consequences for disobedience. That's it. You've lost your home visitation privileges. Panic rises in my throat, making it hard to breathe. I'm sorry. I just had to be with someone. My gran. More emotions fill my throat, making it hard to finish the sentence. Issa looks from me to Monitor Ramus, nervous, just like every time I sneak into her learning pod. I give Monitor Ramus a pleading smile, but she shakes her head. I know, this announcement will be hard for many members of society, but like the council member said, efficiency is key for productivity, and productivity is key for safety. I nod and move around her into my learning pod, but I stop. The need to see Gran overwhelms me. I turn back to her and clasp my hands in a plea. Please, Monitor Ramus, I beg. It's the last day of classes. I need to go home. I can't stay here. Panic begins to rise inside of me. Even though I talk to my family every weekend on my communicator, I haven't been home since our last break 3 months ago, and I live for these breaks. Not to mention, I need to see Gran one last time. I need to say goodbye. Please, I ask again, I need to see them. Monitor Ramus takes a deep breath. I won't report you this time, but this is the last free pass you're going to get, Miss Capella. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I want to reach out and hug her, but I know that would not be welcome and may make her change her mind. I really am grateful. I have had a long record of sneaking into Issa's pod. If her last name didn't follow mine in alphabetical order, we'd have been separated years ago. But efficiency is key, so my irresistible temptation of Issa's pod stays. You can find the rest of Wren's story on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any place else books are sold online. Just search for Before by Molly McNamara Carter. Thanks for listening.